The one with Ross's new girlfriend is the first episode of the second season of Friends, and as a season opener, I think it's pretty good. It picks up where the last episode left off. There will not be any spoilers in this episode discussion. Well, actually, there might be, because I'm going to go into some detail about the narrative, so I probably will spoil things for this episode, and also for the previous episode, but I won't spoil anything that comes next in season 2 of Friends. So if you haven't seen the rest of season 2, um, and you've only seen this episode, I will not spoil anything for you. In the previous episode, at the end of season 1, we find out that Rachel goes to see Ross at the airport after he's been in China. He gets off of the plane with a woman who we now know is Julie. And Julie is played by Lauren Tom. We find out that actually she went to grad school with Ross and they rekindled their friendship, which turned into a romantic relationship while in China. And needless to say, this has come as quite a blow to Rachel because she just started to realise that maybe she had feelings for Ross. And now that she can't have Ross, as is usually the way in life, it's blossoming into a deep yearning. And in the episode, throughout the episode, she's toying with the idea of whether or not she should tell Ross how she feels and that she knows how he feels about her, or if he should just be happy with Julie and she will keep her mouth shut. And it's quite an interesting side to Rachel because it's one of the only times when we've seen Rachel truly wearing her heart on her sleeve. Of course, we do get the return of Paolo. I'm not the biggest fan of Paolo. I don't really like Paolo as a character, but I like the treatment of this one. One of my favorite lines in the whole of this episode is when I think it was Ross asks Paolo, "What are you doing here?" And he replies, and his reply, I love it. Brilliant, brilliant delivery of that line. It was absolutely spot on. I would love to know how you feel or how you felt about Ross and Julie if you remember watching this episode for the first time. I don't remember watching this for the first time. When I started watching Friends, I used to watch it on Channel 4. So I probably saw episodes after this one before I saw this one. But if you watch these in order and you can remember how you felt, who did you root for? Ross and Rachel, or do you think it should have been with Julie? Julie is a character I don't mind. There's nothing wrong with her. There are some of Ross's girlfriends that I really don't like, but actually, I quite like Julie. We have two main subplots in this one, and what's really interesting about this one is actually pretty much every character in this has a subplot. In previous episodes, some of the characters really were just there for padding, and because they had to be there. But in this one, we obviously have Ross and Rachel, then we have a story with Chandler and Joey, and one with Phoebe and Monica. And the one with Phoebe and Monica involves Monica getting her hair cut, allegedly like Demi Moore. And it's worth pointing out that when I first watched this, I imagine I wouldn't have known who Demi Moore was, or indeed who Dudley Moore was, or who Roddy McDowall was. That comes into it later on. So that's one of my favourite things about Friends, is that the more you watch it, the more and more references you get. So I enjoy that aspect of it, and I particularly like what Phoebe says she does with the hair clip. I like the delivery of that line and how it sounds like she's talking about a really serious medical condition. I thought the delivery of that was brilliant. And the other one, of course, is with Joey recommending his tailor to Chandler, and the tailor takes advantage of Chandler. And that's a little bit more serious, but it's still delivered in a very comedic way and is made to be entertaining. So it comes across really effectively, I think. And maybe could be educational. Maybe somebody has been going to the tailor and they have been getting cut by the tailor, and they learn now that that's not how it should be done. So I enjoyed this episode a lot. I think one of the things I remember from this most, as I've mentioned before, there are quotes from Friends that I just say on a regular basis. Like most people, Friends quotes just become part of everyday life. And one of the ones that I don't actually say that often, but I do think often, is "kick you in the crotch, spin on your neck, fantastic." I googled that, and the only references I have to it are from Friends. And I don't know if that's just because it's so focused on Friends, But I'd love to know if that comes from somewhere else or if it's just something the writers came up with, but it's very sharp and just so fantastically delivered. I really enjoyed that. So it's a very strong episode. It's not one of my personal favourites, but as a season opener, it follows on from the previous season finale beautifully. I think the pacing is great. We get to know Julie quite quickly, and Rachel goes on a real roller coaster of emotions. I love the involvement with Phoebe and Monica, Chandler and Joey. Definitely had a nice time watching this episode. I always do. It's one of the most memorable. The one with Ross's new girlfriend, definitely a solid episode.